Hey, it's me, MLB. Here is your Tokoyami one-shot for today. This one is titled Harbringer of Doom. Enjoy. It had been raining non-stop for 4 days. Everything was soaked through. Water cascaded down the sides of the streets, rushing towards the drains, but even they were backlogged to the hilt. The lights from the shops causing a swirling mass of colours in the puddles of water as raindrops pelted at them, keeping them from making any recognisable image. You were out on the late patrol with Tokoyami, better known to the masses as Tsukuyomi, and were doing the last of your checks before heading back to the office and signing off for the night. It's a funny story how you and he had come to work together as pro-heroes. Being about the same age, you had crossed paths over the years, at various hero training events, and had taken a liking to him. You were both pretty similar in personality and in hero looks, and had always gravitated towards each other whenever you had seen each other. Thankfully, you had been picked up by one of the local heroes and had put in a good word for Tokoyami, who had immediately jumped at the opportunity when he heard that he would be working with you, and that's how it all began. 5 years later, you were both still together, and very much enjoying each other's company, but nothing had ever eventuated between you two. It's not like you didn't want something to happen, it was more that there was something holding you back. You had a secret, one you just couldn't quite tell him, since it involved your quirk, and he admired you for your quirk, which he had told you multiple times. The rain continues to fall, you said as you walked side by side with him, your comment being hollowed by the reverberation of your own voice from inside your metal mask. It does, indeed, he replied, keeping his head down and watching the raindrops run in rapid strokes down his beak. Does the rain not bother you? You asked him, glancing out from the eye hole of your mask. The guy hadn't even picked up a raincoat or anything when you'd left for your patrol. The only thing that bothers me is the sun, when it shines so bright, bleaching my dark soul and stealing my strength, he said in a low voice, and your heart pounded faster in your chest. He speaks so cool. I love how he speaks, you thought, not replying to him as you silently fangirled beside him. Your long black hero coat was now completely slicked to your body, soaked through and getting heavier by the moment, but you felt like it maybe made you look a bit more badass, that and your metal plague doctor mask and dragon horns. Yes, dragon horns, that's right, you were dragonkin. Well, that's what you thought so anyway. You weren't exactly sure what your origins were, as you didn't have a lot of memory about your past, which made you even more mysterious, and you didn't mind that at all. Of your patchy memories, you do remember there being a fire, people screaming, and one woman who looked very draconic, demanding that you run just before burning logs fell between you and her. You never saw her again after that, but you had been saved and taken to a hospital and treated for severe burns on your face and body. People recoiled so badly when they saw your disfigured face that you asked a kindly nurse if there was something you could do to hide it from people. She happened to have a metal crafting quirk and asked if there was any kind of face that you'd like to have instead of the one that you currently wore. For some reason, at that age, you had found plague masks fascinating and cool, so asked for that as your chosen face. She obliged and crafted you a full-face, lightweight plague doctor mask for you to wear. Now, instead of people recoiling in disgust, they looked at you with a little fear, claiming that you looked very ominous. You loved that. It felt powerful. And that, combined with your quirk, once it manifested, made you a future hero to be feared. Down the street you walked, keeping an eye out for any misdemeanours, but as you suspected, no one was out causing mischief on a night like this. That would have been insanity. You cleared your throat and looked across to Tokoyami, who looked at you, rain still running down his face and beak. If only the rain would cease, we would be able to see the full moon, you said idly, wanting to make small talk so you could hear him speak again. The man was just too cool. I feel my strength gather on the night of the full moon. Courage courses my veins, like the wind raking through the leaves of a dark willow, he said lowly. Your fangirling increased as you continued to walk. But it is a good thing that your presence is here tonight. No one would dare challenge you, heiress of darkness, he said with a noble politeness, addressing you by your hero name. We should be free of our watery shackles in due time. Agreed, he said with a nod. Let us make haste to complete our rounds, Jet Black Hero, you replied, using his hero name back to him. You couldn't see him through the blinding rain, but he was just as fanboyed up as you were fangirled up, the two of you utterly infatuated with each other, but both completely unaware of the mutual feelings that you felt. Tokoyami had first seen you at a training camp a number of years ago. He had spotted your plague doctor mask from a distance away and had immediately thought it was cool. But when he saw you use your quirk, he was awestruck. He had stood there in the shadows, watching as you squared off with another hero in training, choosing to stand side onto them like you didn't really care if you left any openings in your stance. She possesses a lot of confidence in the way she holds herself, he had thought as he watched. Suddenly, 3 purplish-black swirling balls materialized from thin air around you, and you raised your hand up to command their control. Chanting in a language unknown to him, you commanded the balls to circulate around you, their trajectory changing with the minutest movements from you. He was in love. The power and control that you had over your own quirk at this age was amazing. Your opponent felt it too, and stalled his attack, wondering if it was such a good idea to even take you on. "If you dare to challenge my pertitious void, be prepared to meet your end," you said in an ominous voice, calling out in tongues and making your swirling balls pulsate with blue light at their core. This was enough to send your opponent packing, and that's all there was to it. You deactivated and tucked your arms in behind your purple cloak, then turned dramatically and walked away, cloak billowing out behind you. He was starstruck. You were so powerful no one could touch you. To be honest, from then, he had never seen anybody actually take you on. You made everyone tremble with fear when you activated your quirk. Those who had been close to you when you called out in your own language claimed they had felt the earth move under them. Others had said that they could hear voices whispering from inside the black and purple balls that surrounded you, hypothesizing that your dragon ancestors had been summoned and were ready to rain hell on anyone who touched you. And then there were those who claimed to have tried to attack you, only to have their quirks completely annulled in your presence. You were undefeated, and Tokoyami loved that. The rain increased as you rounded the next corner into a back alley, and you saw something up ahead, as did Tokoyami. "Movement in the darkness," he said lowly to you, and you nodded your mask before slowing beside him. You couldn't quite make out what it was up ahead, but there was definitely someone up there. They looked like they were trying to break down the side door to a building. "Cease your activity," you called to the person, who looked up in shock and surprise, and then swore and took off in the opposite direction. "Tsukuyomi!" you shouted. "Yes," Tokoyami replied, calling upon Dark Shadow to cloak him and take to the skies so he could fly over the man in question and block his escape. Thankfully, it was a narrow alleyway that was open to the next street at the other end, but Tokoyami got to the opening first and dropped down, blocking the exit while you came up behind the guy from the other end. "What business have you here at this hour of night?" you called as you ran up a little way to block the man from escaping back your way, keeping your tone of voice low and threatening. "I don't need to tell you anything, punk-ass heroes," the guy said, looking for you to Tokoyami, and then back to you again. "Must I release my quirk?" you asked, raising your arm up in the sky. Tokoyami from the other end of the alley was already super pumped. Oh, how he wanted to see you in action again. The guy knew who you were, and had heard all the rumours, but had never come up against you in person before, and for a second he was on the back foot. Was he about to get decimated? Suddenly you called out in a foreign language, and your 3 purple and black voids materialised and circled you while you held your hand up. Tokoyami was stoked, his body filling with goosebumps as he stood there in the rain watching you. The guy stood frozen. "Surrender now before the gates of hell are opened," you called. Still he didn't move, and you called for all of your voids to circulate above your head. Why isn't he surrendering? They usually give in now, you thought, as you held your balls suspended above your head. Maybe if I pulsate them and call out their moves, you thought. Calling again in a language unknown to human tongue, you made all 3 energy-type balls grow in size and a blue light pulsate at their core. This man is indeed about to meet his end. She is bringing a Gatling gun to a sword fight, Tokoyami thought, as he braced for you to unleash hell on this man. But still the man stood there, unwavering. A clap of thunder suddenly rolled in the background, and you quickly utilised its presence, making it sound as if that thunder was somehow connected to your quirk. "The rain and clouds are under my control," you shouted. "Let the frenzy begin." But still the man didn't move. "Why isn't this working?" you screamed angrily into your mind. None of your bluffs were doing any good. Then the man let out a small chuckle, that quickly turned into a laugh, that very quickly turned into a manic cackle, and he bent his body back and turned his face to the sky to unleash his full insanity. "I know who you are now," he shouted at you. "You're a fraud!" Your eyes widened inside your mask, fear etching itself into your being. What was this man talking about? What does he mean? Has he figured me out? You thought with terror. "That's right! I have figured you out. On the night of the full moon, I can read minds, and you have revealed your true self to me, he yelled with manic hysteria. Crap, you yelled internally. He cackled. I'll expose you. I'm going to tell everyone. You'll no longer contain the masses. But his rant was halted there as Dark Shadow suddenly emerged and grabbed him in his grasps. You dropped your hand to your side, defeated, and your energy balls vanished. Despair holding your heart in a vice grip. Tokoyami was looking at you, but he couldn't read you, your mask covering all of your emotions. The man started laughing again when he saw how you were just standing there, desolate. This angered Tokoyami, and he called Dark Shadow to squeeze the man enough to make him pass out, and then he could talk to you. Yin, he called over the man, who was now limp in Dark Shadow's grip. You didn't move. What does he mean? He called through the rain. You dropped your head down. You couldn't tell him. You couldn't admit that this whole time you didn't have a powerful quirk. All you had were these balls that you could make float around you. They couldn't do anything except glow and pulsate. All the rest had been your bluffing skills, making people believe that you were beyond god level. Tokoyami was trying to piece it all together, but whether he had figured it out or whether he just didn't want to believe it was making him waver. I'm going to call for backup, he shouted, then reached into his pocket to get his phone and call the police. You had shut down then, and didn't even notice when the police arrived. All you could think about were the implications of this reveal. This was the end of your career. Once the man had been handed over, Tokoyami approached you and gently took your hand and led you back to the building. The rain still pelting down really added to the atmosphere right now. Back inside the building, you and Tokoyami parted ways to have a shower in your own offices and get changed and write up your paperwork. But your heart was just not in it, and you sat there at your desk, post-shower and change, and stared at the papers in front of you, not seeing any of it. A soft knock at your door drew your attention, and you looked at it. Yin, it is I. Tokoyami called softly from the other side of the door. You sighed audibly. You knew he was coming to check on you. Come, you called. He opened the door and then closed it behind him and walked over to your desk. Yin, pardon the intrusion and my rudeness, but I have a question to ask you, he said, bowing his head and crossing one arm across his chest to place his hand on his heart. No need for questions, you said, standing up, heart now aching in your chest. This was it, the reveal, the end of your career. The truth is, I do not have a powerful quirk. I merely have bluffed my way into this position, but now I've been exposed and my heart has been wrenched in two, you admitted boldly. Surely you jest. It was a ruse, a clever ruse that you knew he could read your mind, so you thought certain things to throw him off, to allow me to catch him on your behalf. I mean, he had set it up for you. You could have run with that. It would have passed, but it was risky. And plus, you didn't want to hide anything from him anymore. Slowly you shook your head. I speak the truth, you admitted. And now, this is the end of my career. He will tell everyone and my lies will be laid bare. That is not so, Tokoyami said, stepping forwards and smacking his hands down on the desk between you both. I will not allow it to happen. I'll have his memory erased. But what if the others challenge me? You asked. I will be by your side. What if there is a time when we are not together? Please, consider me, he begged, bowing with his hand still on the desk. Please, I know I am not worthy, but I have admired you for the longest time, and it would be an honour if you would consider accepting me as your partner, romantic partner. You were suddenly floored. Wait, was he confessing his feelings for you? Now? Just after you told him you were useless? What? Me? You asked, dumbfounded. Yes. My heart has been stolen by your beauty and grace, heiress of darkness, and it would be my honour to protect you and stand by you for the rest of my days, he said, with his head still bowed. Good thing for the mask, because the look on your face right there and then, he was so cool. If you will have me, then I will eagerly oblige, as I too have harboured romantic feelings for you too, Jet Black Hero. He looked up at you, then with surprise. He must not have been expecting that reply. Then let this be made official, he said, bowing his head again. I pledge my allegiance to my heiress from now and forevermore, doing all I can do to protect her and uphold her. May the gods smile favourably down upon me. Yeah, he's so cool, you gushed internally. And I too lay my life in the hands of my hero, Tsukuyomi, the Jet Black Hero, keeper of my soul. And cut. That is a wrap. There is the end of the Tokoyami one-shot. It's short and sweet, but I hope you enjoyed it. Next week will be one for the boys, so stay tuned for that, and I'll see you then.